Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of This Week in Phillies Baseball. I'm your host, James Scorza, with you, and with me, as always, is a group of companions on a busy Monday afternoon. Trying to get this done before 6:10 here tonight between the Phillies and the Reds. Joey Marks and Austin Hammel joining me actually since last week, the last time we seen each other. But gentlemen, how are we doing on this very important Monday afternoon?
Very good. Very happy to have a sweep already in pocket for in this 10-game road trip. So let's hope we can go to Great America Ballpark and hit some home runs over the fence.
Yeah, absolutely. Austin, I know I talked to you last week, but how are you doing on this very important Monday, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. Just like Joe said, good to see the Phillies get a sweep over the weekend and looking forward to this series starting up tonight in Cincinnati.
Yeah, it should be a fun matchup. I guess it's probably one of those things with Cincinnati. It feels like sometimes with Cincinnati they don't play very well to competition, but right now the Phillies are on a heater. Right now they are playing really good baseball. Taking 2 out of 3 by the Orioles over the week, and also sweeping the Texas Rangers on Friday through Sunday. So we're going to talk about the recap of the previous matchup. So let's break it down here, boys. So it began the week with the Phillies open up, taking 2 out of 3 with the Baltimore Orioles. So, Joey, I'll ask you the first question here. Since we're talking about this topic here, what are your takeaways from this? What were your takeaways on Monday through Wednesday with the Orioles series, especially a team that is on the outside, basically on the outside looking in after a good start to last year? But what is your what were your takeaways from the week between the Phillies and the Orioles and the Texas Rangers?
Yeah. So to start with the Orioles, that was a team who I felt like was on the outside looking in, like you said, was complete sellers at the trade deadline. Sold a lot of the pieces that made them really well and relevant last year. The interesting part of all of this is that Baltimore still gave us a little bit of a fight, especially on that last game. The sweep of the Texas Rangers was more so impressive. Even though the Rangers have been on a kind of a slide, you got to remember, and it's something I brought up to you I think the other day, is that the Rangers are only 1 year removed from being World Series champions, and
Right.
there is some kind of perspective that their roster isn't as deconstructed from that World Series roster as people would expect it to be. And the other part of it is that the Phillies have not played well in Arlington. 2 of 11 prior to this series starting. So to take 3 and get more wins in this one series than you've had in probably the last 11 such visits, it's amazing. Because this team is starting to click and put it all together.
Yeah, absolutely. Austin, what were your takeaways from the Baltimore and Texas series in the last week or so?
Honestly, a lot of the same that Joe was saying. It was good to see Philadelphia, even though, like you said, sort of faltering in that last game against Baltimore. Both offenses not showing the same pop that they did last season. They did both sides, both Baltimore and Texas alike did have some really good offensive outputs throughout the series, especially the Texas series. There was a lot of extra base hits going on in those games, but overall, I mean, just seeing Philadelphia's bats stay hot, stay alive. I believe they finished that week with a batting average of 279, hitting 12 home runs and 11 doubles, totaling 57 hits and 204 at bats. So you love to see Philadelphia be able to keep the offense rolling the way that they have.
Yeah, no question about it. And you guys said it best perfectly, like how I would say it. Because the way the Phillies did this week, I thought they played very well to the competition that they played. Obviously, it could have been like two series that they could have swept with both Baltimore and Texas as of yesterday. But for me, the thing that I was really excited to see is that the newcomers actually coming, like the new players like Harrison Bader, and also obviously Duran has become a real, like, actually starting to remind me of another pitcher that was perfect in that 2008 World Series. So I'm not trying to jinx it yet, but if we have a guy going perfection until
He's 4 for 4, so
I
he's
mean,
4 for 4.
it's again like 48 for 48 when the time calls for it, but I think he'll get there. But no, all that aside though, but I think this is a very good time that the Phillies are getting hot at the right time. This is not like mid-season form, and they're like in doing this in June or July. I mean, they're hitting their stride like right at the right place at the right time. That's the most important thing. I think that's one of the reasons why I said when I said that if the Phillies go to the World Series, I mean, you had to get hot at the right time, and they're getting hot at the right time without a question. So, I mean, the Baltimore taking 2 out of 3. I mean, it was a little concerned with that third game, but winning the series over taking 2 out of 3 against Baltimore is a positive, and even more of a positive too. Like you even brought up, Joey, too, with the Texas Rangers. Like they don't do well up in Arlington going back for like years. I mean, going back to before this stadium was even built. I mean, they had some like house of horrors with that, like the Josh Hamiltons of the day, or maybe Nelson Cruz, or even like Ian Kinsler. Like just like the list goes on and on about that too. But taking 2 out of 3 and also taking a series sweep is a real good tone setter coming into tonight against Cincinnati, without a question.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? They're getting some reinforcements with some of the bullpen. And I think some of those stronger arms are gonna kind of shine through. And having someone like Johan Duran to kind of close the door, that makes a big difference when you're talking about a 1 or 2 run lead. If the offense plays ugly or plays down to their competition, you always have that guy to kind of close the door.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's get to question number 2 here. So it's our standout performances of the week, and it's basically the big storyline that's been going on for the last handful of months now for the New York Mets, that the Mets are starting to Met in every which way. Last night, getting swept by the Milwaukee Brewers is something to be really excited about, seeing the Mets starting to collapse a little bit. But overall, Austin, I'll ask you this question. It was probably a bittersweet week for the Phillies to pick up a couple more games, especially with the Mets starting to lose some along the way in the process too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's always good to be able to gain ground, especially with how tight the NL East race has been so far this season, to be able to open it up to what are we sitting at now? About, I want to say 5.5, 6 games, something like that.
Something
Five
like
and a half. Yeah.
5.5.
Yeah.
It could be 5.5. Oh wow, yeah. It could be 6 after tonight.
Yeah, after tonight, you're looking at a 6.5 game lead. Getting into mid-August, this is a great position for Philadelphia to be in. Starting to be able to open that gap up a little bit more game by game. And especially, just like you said, with the Mets metting as often and as quickly as they can this past week, it's definitely looking really good for Philadelphia getting into the real, I guess you could say the big stretch leading to the end of the season.
Yeah, and you know what? The stat that I heard today, which is even more makes the Metting more astounding, is since June 1st, on June 1st, the Phillies were 4.5 games behind the Mets in first place. And basically, they have swapped 10 games. They made up 10 games is the differential for the Mets and the Phillies
That's amazing.
since June 1st. So about a month and a half, or 2 months, I should say. So this is a perspective that you have these name people like Lindor and you know
Soto and
and
Pete
in the polar
Alonso.
bear.
yeah,
Mhm.
You got all those guys, and it matters not if you have all the name players and they don't perform. I
right,
mean, we've said that about our name players. If Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, if those guys don't perform, we get on them because that's what they're here for. And like we can bitch and moan about the bottom of the lineup,
sure,
but the core four needs to do it. And the four horsemen of this team need to carry the day. And if they can't, then it's going to, not to say it's going to put us in a losing effort, but it's going to make it a struggle,
hmm
especially come October.
yeah. And that's the thing too, Joe. Because if you think about it too, because I was going to say something about that bottom of the lineup was the standout performance of the week. Just seeing Bryson Stott come back out of nowhere, and also see like players like Harrison Bader, who yesterday I think for the first time since the trade deadline, I was a little bit skeptical about it, but making that great Robin of the home run, I guess it was, what was it against? Adolis Garcia, was it?
Yeah.
Seager.
Seager, that's right. Corey
And
Seager, that's right.
Seager got on that thing too.
Yeah,
Bader
right.
closed quick.
Well, you bring up about the bottom of the lineup, James.
Sure.
There was another stat that I heard that I was really interested in. We talked about Brandon Marsh's struggles
Mhm.
on Saturday's Patterson Ave Sports Show, and this is a guy that on Sunday I listened to the local telecast, and an interesting stat came across about Brandon Marsh. 9 games, this guy's batting over 500. His
Wow.
batting average is over 500 in the last 9 games. I mean, for a guy who's mid to the bottom third of the lineup kind of guy, that's production you can really love to see at timely manner. And I think he was a big contributor along with Amundo Sosa when it comes down to this past Texas Rangers series.
Yeah, and I think the last thing I'll say about this too with Brandon Marsh was I think it was probably when we talked about it on the past and I've sports show a couple of times is that ever since he probably heard us and said, okay, I want to prove your doubters wrong again, just to see what the circumstance might be. But he's been really effective as of late. He's been a real good player to have, obviously, and now you can like platoon him and Harrison Bader, and also you can. I mean, the day and age of baseball. I mean, you never thought that the bottom of the lineup would be the team that's like red hot right now. You would thought like from 1 through 4, it would be like either like Schwarber getting hot or Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, and then Castellanos, or et cetera, et cetera. And I think the thing that makes this bottom of the lineup even more effective is that even like when the time calls for it, I mean, they continue to platoon every chance they get, and they continue to make sure that whatever the circumstance may be, whatever like if that bottom of the lineup, I mean that's the thing that they got to worry about, not the top of the lineup, but more the bottom of the lineups more than anything, especially for pitchers and batters alike, especially let alone coming up if the postseason comes around here in the next couple months or so. You got to worry about those two things in particular. I mean, the top of the lineup is, I mean, Schwarber is Kyle Schwarber. I mean, there's no question about it.
Yeah.
But that bottom of the lineup is going to be probably just scary good when the time calls for it around that red October when things start to get real here in the next couple months or so.
Yeah, if those four horsemen lead the way, the bottom of the lineup will follow.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's get into our final topic for the weekly recap here. So, Phillies bats coming alive, like we brought up in the bottom of the lineup here. So maybe this is something that I would like to be skeptical here, but Bryson Stott is one player that I was kind of semi out on after a disappointing couple games he had. But overall, Joe, he's been looking a lot better as of lately. Maybe the thing that makes Bryson Stott even more effective is that even those players that were doubting him, like I was like a little bit doubting him too. I mean, he's been showing out in big time ways more than anything in this last handful of weeks.
Yeah, I'm a big Bryson Stott fan, and I'll throw this to Austin in a minute, but because I feel like maybe I'm seeing it with rose-colored glasses, but from my standpoint, Stott has had his ups and downs, but he's always been really a good defender.
Great defender.
Yeah, and I feel like his bat is just going to come along.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that we saw in like 2022, this outburst, and we're like, where's that Bryson Stott? I just think that not every batter has those kind of seasons all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it when it comes down to people like Castellanos and before Reese Hoskins.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can go really hot and you become torrid. Now, when Bryson Stott can get red hot, he can go on a torrid pace. And I feel like not necessarily where he would carry the day, but like this is a guy that could go into the 5th and 6th hole if he's hot and be sustainable there. Austin, what do you think?
I was gonna. I'm sorry, Austin. I was gonna just ask a follow up real quickly here about Bryson Stotter. So you think they should move him up in the lineup if he continues to be effective, Joe?
Yeah, I do. I think that if the success is sustainable, I think you should, because I think Castellanos is going through that little bit of a cold streak. And I think that, if you have an opportunity, a window, it's not going to be forever. It's not going to be for the whole season. But if you have an opportunity, a window to plop Bryson Stott in the 5 or 6 hole because he's hot, I think it would be effective for the Phillies.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Austin. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, you're good, man. Yeah, I 100% agree with everything you guys are saying. Like you guys said, the bottom of the lineup, the Edmundo Sosa, Bryson Stott, Brandon Marsh, those guys have really come alive in the past few months. Especially Brandon Marsh. Like he's the one guy that I want to highlight the most, because there was a point in time we were talking about shipping this guy out because he couldn't see the ball. He was having a really tough year. He was batting, I want to say, about last time I had looked at it, because my mom and I were having a discussion about him about what the plan would be. I think he was batting like a 186. He just could not see the ball. He was striking out a ton. Took a had that bit of time off, went down, got himself some quality ABs down in AAA, came back, and sort of was, I guess you could say, underwhelming, even though he was hitting the ball a little bit better. Go into All-Star break, come out, he's seeing everything now. And him and Bryson Stott both, like, just to give you guys a quick little look, on July 29th, Stott was batting at 233.
Wow.
From the 29th to now, he has jumped his batting average up from a 232 to a 242.
Wow.
Stott's seeing the ball incredibly well now. Brandon Marsh is doing the same thing. Like I want to say, what was it? I think in the Baltimore series, they said at that point, I think it was game 2, half of Brandon Marsh's hits for the month of, I believe it was just for the month of August, had been for extra bases.
Guy's amazing.
Like these guys in the bottom of the lineup, and Mundo Sosa too. These guys are absolutely tattooing the ball.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'd be remiss. I'm going to add to it, Austin, and I want to get your take on it. A guy that's also doing well as a filler is Otto Kemp.
Yeah.
When you bring Otto Kemp along, and James brought this up earlier, now you have Harrison Bader, and you have some of these guys that are plug and plays, along with guys like Max Kepler and whatnot. You have some flexibility if you're Rob Thompson within your lineup. It reminds me a little bit of those times in 2007, 2008 with the Eric Bruntlets and the Greg Dobbs, the very situational hitting opportunities. Like you have a job and you can be relied on. Like Greg Dobbs wouldn't bat 400, but if he was put in a situation, you felt okay, you felt comfortable with him at the plate. And my question to you, Austin, is: do you feel the same way about a guy like Austin Hammel? I mean, a guy like Otto Kemp and a guy like Harrison Bader. Of course, you feel that way about yourself. But
oh yeah, and I feel like that's the thing for those guys too. Is the confidence. the confidence that they have knowing that they can come into a situation and perform. Otto Kemp, even Weston Wilson had himself a hell of a week.
Yeah, would have thought, right?
Yeah,
and I've been a big critic of his.
Yeah,
as do I.
Just like some of the other guys that you mentioned, like Max Kepler, and even like we were just talking about with Brandon Marsh, Harrison Bader starting to got his first home run during the Baltimore series. These guys are starting to really come alive, and I feel like especially those guys that are more like platoon type guys in different positions, they're all rallying around each other. You can tell. Like these guys are all, and not even just them, the guys above them in the lineup are also, rallying around these guys too, because if you can get the entire lineup hitting, you are way more dangerous. And if you can keep up this consistency for the next 2.5, 3 months, you're looking at a potential World Series championship. If you can keep this offense consistent and the pitching is following it up, Jesus Luzardo had a couple of shaky starts, but he managed to, still prove really effective. Taijuan Walker had shutout baseball. Like these guys are really starting to feel it. You can tell just from how they're playing. The 13-run explosion after what was that? The ground ball to Henderson that Musso hit and managed to leg out led to 8 runs. Like these guys are finding opportunities to really just get to a team, and they're capitalizing every single chance they get.
I mean, keep in mind it's 10 weeks of hell. You go 10 weeks from today, you are in mid-October. You are either at the CS or World Series doorstep. And so the Phillies are at 10 weeks of hell, and just to kind of get in and get right. And you got guys like all the guys you mentioned, and then the idea that you have Alec Baum coming back. You have the guys like Aaron Nola coming back. These guys are not just, plug and play guys. These are guys that are starters. These are guys that are contributors to this team. And if they are able to contribute anything significant to this team in those 10 weeks, you're looking at World Series contenders.
Yeah.
And not only just the 10 weeks until mid-October, just the fact that right now you're in the midst of 13-13.
Wow.
And you're already what, 5-1?
Yeah.
By what, middle of the 4th inning in this game, you have already had an incredible halfway point of this whole run of games, and then you come back home to face Seattle and Washington.
Yeah,
and
it's
Seattle's
incredible.
A little hot. Yeah, you'll get the MLB home run leader in Cal Raleigh coming in with Seattle. Sure. And then Washington always proves to be a tough battle. So you have a good set of games coming up, not including the Cincinnati series, because of course this one is very important as well. But then you get divisional opponents. You get Washington twice on the road, and then you sandwich Seattle in between them. So you're starting to get into some bigger opportunities to widen that gap in the division. Keep that offense consistent. Make sure the arms are still live in the bullpen. You're hitting all of these perfect points to be able to really just get yourself tuned up even further for getting into postseason baseball.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's continue the player spotlight here. Since that was a perfect segue into the player spotlight, so I was like, let me make this part of our player spotlight. So here's the thing I want to ask you guys this too. So I'll ask you about Christopher Sanchez after I get done with this. So Aaron Nola coming back as early probably this week or so. Joey, you said before that you will probably put him in the bullpen and all that. I mean, does you think that could be a good idea for? I mean, this is a two-part. This is a question for the two of you here. You think about the struggles with Zach Wheeler right now, and I mean, he had a good outing yesterday. Coming, I think, after having those 2 days off due to his arm being sore. But I think for me, I mean, where you guys at with the Aaron Nola thing? Do you guys think he should be in the rotation when he comes back, or you still want to consider him to be part of this bullpen when he comes back in the next couple of weeks? Joey, I'll start with you first.
Yeah, with Wheeler and some of his struggles as of late and the soreness and whatnot, I'd rather put Nola in the starting role, and I'd rather have Wheeler and kind of take it easy with him because he's more valuable to you in October than he is in September and August. Right. And I get it, he's a competitor. And I get also and this is the other unfortunate thing. We talked about it on Saturday.
Yeah,
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
sure.
And I just feel like with this possible injury, with this possible situation with Zach Wheeler, it I feel like it's just handing off the Cy Young to Christopher Sanchez, which
Yeah,
is not a bad thing, but you feel for Zach because you know he wants it. What I could say in return to Zach Wheeler is the year that the Phillies won the World Series, Cole Hamels didn't win Cy Young. He won World Series MVP.
right.
So I would rather him aim for that.
Mm-hmm.
Aim to be the best version of Zach Wheeler in October. Because if we have the best version of Zach Wheeler in October, and we have Christopher Sanchez, the Cy Young winner, as a game 1 or 2 starter, and then you're working with Ranger, Luzardo, and Aaron Nola for the rest of your potential rotation for the playoffs. I think any team that's going to try and make the playoffs will give their left arm for that. Probably.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a couple comments here, so it's my dad bringing up some good stuff here. So he says the best way for the Phillies to lock up the top seed to get the number one bye is actually 54 games. So like they're right in the driver's seat with that. And the key word to him says the key to the way to key the rest of the way rather is to be more consistent, especially, and they're very consistent right now. And also, I think it might be obvious too. I do agree with this. I mean, Paul Skeens is just ripping the cover off the ball. He's just been like really, him and Screwball have been like the top aces in MLB right now. So for me, I agree with you said there too, Joey. If Christopher Sanchez doesn't win the Cy Young, it's like our best bet is that the World Series ring should be more effective than anything like that, though. So yeah, same question to you, Austin. How do you feel about the situation with Aaron Nola coming up next week, or when he's coming back in the next week or so? I mean, you think you should put him back in the rotation, or do you think we should put him in the bullpen?
I mean, I would, of course, you would love to see one of your starters back in the rotation immediately coming back off of the injury, but you also want to make sure that he's fully ramped up. So you kind of want to probably even have the idea of a 6-man rotation for a little bit. You know,
Yeah,
it gives
sure.
Wheeler that extra day of rest, gives a lot of your pitchers that extra day to be able to sort of, get that good recovery in for their next start. And it also gives Aaron Nola the opportunity to, go 4 or 5 innings, let the bullpen pick up from there, especially with the fact that, Wheeler, Sanchez, Suarez, all those guys are going 6-7 innings for their starts. So the bullpen's not really having a lot of stress being put on it at the current moment.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with the fact that, Duran has been handling his outings as almost as fast as anyone I've ever seen do it. Like
Right.
it's a lot less stressful for everybody involved in the Phillies pitching.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I mean, it's going to be one of those things that I would wait for it to play out, obviously, to see what Zach Wheeler does in his next couple starts here, depending on that troublesome shoulder that he's been dealing with. For me, I'm in the same boat as Joey was a couple weeks ago. What they did with, I mean, this is kind of funny to talk about here, but they did this a couple years ago with Zach. What was it? Zach Eflin. That's what it was. During that World Series run, they moved him into the bullpen, and he was pretty effective in the bullpen. I mean, obviously, he didn't have a place with the starting rotation, obviously, but I think for me, that will be a very good tall task for him, especially to wheel himself back in when that time calls for it to come postseason comes around. I mean, yeah, you'll probably have a 6-man rotation, like you said there, Austin. I think that might be considered too. At the same time, too, I think you might I mean, for me, I would put him in the bullpen just to give him wheel him back in before, especially when that postseason comes around. He won't be as rusty as because he already had the experience in the bullpen, too.
Yeah, you got to give Aaron a little bit of runway, but I also think when you weigh who's more important of a pitcher, Aaron Nola or Zach Wheeler, it's without a doubt, hands down, Zach
Sure.
Wheeler.
Yeah, sure.
So, I want to make sure that he's right as well. Like, I think Aaron Nola, when we go to the playoffs, whether it's, the wild card or the DS, I think then we can look at the possibility of a bullpen piece, because some of these guys, we have a surplus of
Hmm.
starting pitchers, which is rare for the Phillies, and
Hmm.
not even just like a surplus of okay starting pitchers. We have
Right.
a surplus of good starting pitchers. So it's a matter of just maneuverability, and this is where someone like Rob Thompson is going to have to get a little creative about it, and that's
Hmm.
fine. That's what he gets paid for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe this is this is probably a pipe dream or something like that. But maybe if Jesus Luzardo continues to struggle, you probably can move him to the bullpen
Yeah.
and move Noah up like up to upper management. So I mean, it'll be something to keep a close eye on. It'll be very interesting to see here. So I was going to ask you a question about Christopher Sanchez being the Cy Young, but I think we already pitched. I think we already said that about being Paul Skeens probably could be the odds-on favorite of winning that Cy Young. Um, but I mean, but right now, I think I speak more than anything. I think Christopher Sanchez, if he's not one of the odds-on favorites of winning that Cy Young, I mean, he should be in consideration to be a Cy Young candidate without a question. Even though if he doesn't win it to Skeens, I mean, at least he was in the top tier of like the Cy Young eligibility of becoming a Cy Young. I mean, am I right about that?
Yeah, and I'll ask Austin about this, because this is kind of an interesting takeaway. Someone brought this up to me. Is I think that in the Cy Young, when people get, I guess, awarded the trophy, like
Mm-hmm.
when they pick the winner, the basis in which they base who wins and why is usually because just numbers, right?
Right.
ERA and WHIP and all that.
Velocity
But
and all that.
right, my question is, should there be like there is in college football and college
Hmm.
basketball, like like an oppositional disadvantage, meaning
Hmm.
like it also depends on who they're facing,
Right.
so to speak. Like if they're facing guys, like if Pittsburgh's facing really poor teams,
Mm-hmm.
my feeling is okay, because you got to think they're what, in the same division as the Rockies, so they play
Oh,
the
the Reds.
Rockies
They're in the
and
same
the
division
Reds
as
too.
the Brewers too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
So
Pirates, Reds, Brewers, I believe Cardinals as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
So my
The
thing
Cubs
is,
too.
I'm not saying the Cubs and the Brewers are like top two. I mean, the Brewers right now are the best team in the majors. So I'm not saying that they're facing all bottom feeders and Schemes is a bum or anything. It's just, I think when you look at like that opposing differential, it should matter, like who they're facing and how often they're facing that competition. What do you think, Austin?
Hmm.
I mean,
That's a good question.
I could definitely understand the premise for having that be a determining factor, but at the same time, the MLB is the highest possible tier of competition for the sport.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like having the award as it is, I mean, it's writers that vote on all of these awards for the most part. So you're going to end up getting some sort of favoritism. You know, the
Right.
main guy who the media covers most of the time is more than likely going to end up being an odds-on favorite. But I mean, the numbers are there for Skeens. Same thing with Scooble. So I feel like it's kind of fair to say that they are the odds-on favorites and will more than likely end up winning those awards. Even though, you know, like we said, you know, Pittsburgh is in a division where there's a lot of weak teams, you know, save for, you know, Milwaukee being the best team in baseball. And even then, Skeens doesn't really get tagged too much by them. I believe of the starts that he's had, I think he's only factored in one or two losses against Milwaukee so far this entire year.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Which is great considering last I checked, I want to say Milwaukee's run differential was over 200 runs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which one shows the level of competition that they're playing against within their division to have their run differential blow up so high, but also shows the capability of their offense. And for Skeens to not be losing too often and not get tagged too much by Milwaukee definitely says a lot about the capability that he has as a pitcher and helps sort of push that idea of him being a Cy Young Award winner perennially, or even just considered in the best pitcher in baseball talk.
Yeah. And it's a good point, Joe. Like even me and my dad bring up a good point here about this too, because it's like the strength of the schedule for a pitcher and should be considered as the Cy Young, and that's the most important thing too. Because you think about what Skeens has had. I mean, there's like games that he didn't. I mean, the majority of the time when Skeens like pitches his asses off. The problem is he hasn't gotten like any run support.
Right.
I mean, that's probably the most important key because.
Yeah.
That should be a factor too, right?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I mean, the Pittsburgh Pirates would be probably a playoff contending team if they could score a run for schemes.
Sure.
And like that was kind of an issue too when we talk about the Rangers series. That was a big issue with the Rangers series is that their pitchers are really good, but the problem is their offense isn't scoring. And that's what makes the Phillies very dynamic in that situation because we have the good pitching. We just need to clean up some hitting. And that's why I've never really felt like the sky is completely falling for the Phillies because as long as you still have like the core four, you always have a chance. And as long as you still have the pitching, like if Zach Wheeler and Christopher Sanchez and Bryce Harper and Trey Turner and Kyle Schwarber, if all five of them were hurt, then my outlook would look very different. But they aren't. And like that's the difference is that this team, they go through ups and downs. We say it all the time. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Sure.
And so for me, it's a matter of as long as you got the core, you got a chance. And so that's the way I feel, and that's how strongly I feel about it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And a prime example to echo that statement is just look at Atlanta. You know, they've been playing a lot of their games this season without some of their key core players, and it's definitely cost them a lot.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's move on here. So I got one question to ask you about the bullpen watch here tonight. So obviously, Johan Duran has become basically the savior to the bullpen as he has been so effective as of the last time he pitched I think it was 2 nights ago. He pitched yesterday for the save. But overall, I have to ask is that can he continue this going on? I know that thing that we always talked about the Brad Lidge and I quote perfection that he had back in 2008. But Joe and Austin, you think he can continue this going on into September and probably in mid-October too?
Austin, I'll let you go first on this.
Sorry, my headset died. I didn't even realize the battery was low. My apologies.
No worries. It's all good.
I mean, you would like to hope that Duran can stay consistent. You know, that's the hope is that he can. I mean, in a perfect world, shut down every single opportunity that he comes in to be able to get. But you know, every once in a while, there are going to be those slip ups. There are going to be pitches that are left hung over the plate that could end up costing you a game or two. Sure. So you just have to be able to take those in stride and just leave them behind you. And fingers crossed, this bullpen stays consistent because during this past week alone, they showed that they can be.
Yeah, and also Jose Alvarado coming back very, very soon could be a positive, like for a little bit until the postseason comes around, and then it's all Johan Duran's job and Matt Strahm and Orion Kerkering, and hopefully Romano. I'm not fully on completely not sold. I mean, I guess I'm giving Romano a little bit of a chance because now he's got Johan Duran right beside him. I guess he could probably change his philosophy of what he could try to be as a pitcher. But for me, I mean, Joey, I'll ask you this question, the same thing I asked Austin here. You think he can still continue this into like the later months of August and September, and also hopefully mid-October when the time calls for it?
Absolutely. I think he's got such a mental edge on the opposing team. And I think he's also helping the players that are in that bullpen as well. I think a guy like, Mad Max and Lazard, and then you get Romano, you get Kerkering. Like you get some of these young pitchers and you get someone. Now Duran's not like super old, but he walks with a swagger that not many people do. And he can back it up. And sometimes that's all you really need. Sometimes you need that person that could come in and changes the mentality in the room. and
Hmm.
Duran does that. And sometimes it's better to walk with confidence and put your best foot forward and be successful than lack that confidence and struggle and question whether or not you even have the ability.
Hmm.
And I think Duran knows what he's capable of, and I think he's inputting that into all the other pitchers that are in that bullpen. He undoubtedly has made that bullpen stronger, not just by his talent, but by what he brings to the table for everybody else.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, because like, you think about what Devon brought to the table, especially in these last handful of games that he's been pitching in. I mean, every night, especially, it's a shame that the Phillies are not home for this because they just seeing that light show every night and seeing the tarantula like walk around, kind of like a Three Stooges pun. But the thing about it too, I made a pun about it yesterday with Larry Fine in the background. Instead of a tarantula, I said a tarantula, like when he was like doing sympathy for like night at the night. Oh, I forget what the episode. This sort of really at the court. So I'm a big Three Stooges fan. But other than that, the one thing I love about Durant too, he's just so even keel. Nothing phases him. I mean, even when he throws like 102 and 103, it doesn't even feel like he's throwing that hard. That's the amazing thing, guys. It's just like it doesn't even feel like. I mean, when you see a Aroldis Chapman, I mean, he's like throwing with gas. I mean, this guy's not even throwing with gas, and the radar gun has like 102, 103 on the radar gun, and it's unbelievable, man.
Well, you hear Chapman, he'll give the grunt,
Right?
and you'll know he's like hurling. And with Duran, he's just like like he's having a cup of tea and he's throwing 103. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. Now, little FYI that I heard from a little birdie of mine that works down at the Phillies.
Hmm.
Um, there's a possibility that the people that have engineered Duran's entrance
Mm-hmm.
uh, are upping their game for the playoffs.
Ooh, I like it.
So
I
it's
dig.
going to be a little bit better. It may even be a little bigger.
Count me in on that, Brody. Count me in on
Yeah, I'm
that, brother.
sold.
Yeah, right. Same here. So we got a couple more things here before we head out of here. So this is a minor league report that I haven't done in a while, but I feel like I have to address this about Andrew Painter. This year in Lehigh Valley right now, I didn't know how bad he was until I saw these numbers here. I'm not saying it's bad, but I think it's probably like he's still recouping from that Tommy John surgery that he suffered through last year. But for his record, as this is a scouting report as of yesterday, so he is 3-7 this year and has an ERA of 5.24 in 20 games played up in Lehigh Valley. So it's only one question I want to ask you guys about Andrew Painter. When do you guys expect him to come up? I mean, I know this year he won't be coming up again anytime soon, or maybe if they do bring him up, it'll probably like when September when they do all the call ups and stuff. But do you guys see him come up at all this year? By any chance, Joey Austin, do you think he's ever going to come up this year, or do you think they're going to just wait until next year to see what he has in store for 2026?
Yeah, you know, I I brought this up on Saturday. I just don't know if you don't want to just keep him down there and get him right with his mechanics. I honestly think one of the reasons, and this has happened to many pitchers after Tommy John, their
Mm-hmm.
arm slot kind of moves
Mm-hmm.
and from where they were when they were throwing well. And all that is just working on your mechanics to get it right. And he's still really young. If you bring him up, I would honestly want to throw him out there maybe in like 1 or 2 innings. But I would want to throw him out there against like a team like the Nationals
Mm-hmm.
where you're not worried about him facing a guy, that's like the big dumper that's going to like send them over the fence or whatever. And
Sure.
like someone that's going to take him yard and ruin his confidence even more because look, you see the stats, you read the stats, he knows the stats. Like that's the
Yeah.
thing. For the people that don't think players don't pay attention to stats, they do, but you have to kind of at some point you have to kind of ask yourself the question, is this who I am or am I somewhere in between what I was to where I am now?
Yeah.
And that's where I think we have to figure it out.
and water has to find its level too at the same time too.
Yeah.
So Austin, same question to you. You think the Phillies will bring him up this year by any chance, or you think they'll wait until 2026 to bring him up?
I think it'll probably be like a post All-Star break 2026 idea, just because, like Joe was saying, sometimes it is tough to try and re-find that spot that you were throwing really well from, especially coming off of what he's coming off of. A lot of really good pitchers do struggle with that, and it takes them a little bit to find that position. Like Lance McCullers, for example, really solid pitcher, had a lot of really good stuff, suffered that elbow injury, multiple setbacks, kept him out for a whole extra year. Comes back in, and you can just tell where his release point was just different.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It led to him leaving a lot of stuff up. Led to him getting absolutely shelled in his first start back in the league, and it definitely rattled his confidence for sure. But he saw that as an opportunity to try and figure out where he needed to be, and he's starting to make a bit of a come around.
Yeah, absolutely. The first person I think of is Steven Strasburg after he came back from Tommy John, and after how like he had a really bad setback after that Tommy John. And he got fully effective like years later, but then by the time he was fully healthy, it was a little bit too late, and his career was almost over. So
yeah, DeGrom was another one. DeGrom was another one that went through it,
right.
And they brought it up on the telecast this past weekend about how, like, as good as he is, the numbers like don't reflect as much. Like you would think, okay, this guy's a 2-time Cy Young winner. He should, he's possibly in the Cy Young running. Probably won't win it this year in the AL, but still is in the running. And so he's relevant of the conversation. But the thing is, with DeGrom, ever since he had that Tommy John, it's difficult. It is a challenge to get back to where you need to be. And the good news
is a setback, that's for sure.
Yeah, the good news is Andrew Painter's young enough where he can make the time to get himself right.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I think the other thing too with Painter is that this is going to be something for future shows. If he does come up here, it'll be something pretty cool to see. But hopefully, probably towards the end of the year, it'll be a lot more easier said than done for his elbow to be fully recovered, and hopefully we'll probably see him in 2026 along the way too. All right, before we get out of here, we're gonna bring up our upcoming series previews. So the Phillies play 3 tonight against Cincinnati, and then 4 starting Thursday against the Nationals. Starting tonight for the Phillies, this is our pitching rotation for this upcoming Reds Phillies matchup tonight. So Taijuan Walker takes the mound for the Phillies, and he is 4-5 this year, looking to try to go to 500 for the first time this season. Still hard to believe he's going to be 5. I mean, if he gets a 5, he's going to be 500 this year. I mean, I don't know what happened to the old Taijuan Walker, but don't ever come back here. So he's a 4-5 at the very moment, and he has an ERA of 3.53 on the year, 60 strikeouts on the year, and he'll be opposed by Andrew Abbott, who is 8-2 this year and then has an ERA of 2.34. Tomorrow night for the Phillies, it'll be Ranger Suarez taking the mound for the Pinstripes. He is 8-5 this year and has a 2.94 ERA, and he'll be opposed by Brady Singer, who is 9-9 this season, and he has a 4.53 ERA. And to close out the matchup on Wednesday, I thought it was an afternoon. I think it's a Wednesday night game. It's not an afternoon game. So it's Christopher Sanchez taking the mound once again, and they're going to get his 12th win on the season. And he has a 2.36 ERA, and he'll be opposed by Hunter Green, who is 4-3 this year with a 2.72 ERA. So no further updates on the Thursday to Sunday matchup between the Phillies and Nationals. But overall, what are your expectations for this Phillies team coming up this week between the Reds and the Nationals, starting tonight and then ending on Sunday? Joey, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think that they should go 5-2 comfortably. The Nationals should be a team that they should take at least 3 or 4, and the Reds should be something that they take at least 2 or 3. Great American Ballpark, my hope is that what I really want to have come out of this series in Cincinnati is that Castellanos and Kepler and guys like that hit the ball over the fence and start thinking, I like that feeling, and continue to do it and have that carry over into Washington and back to CBP. So
Absolutely.
that's what I hope. I hope that it's not just a good series where we take the series from the Reds, but it's a good series that it's a get right series for some of the batters, the power bats that have been on a power outage.
Yeah, absolutely. Austin, what do you think the Phillies will do this weekend? What are your expectations for this upcoming series against the Reds and the Nationals?
I actually have the same prediction as Joe. Getting three out of four from Washington, 2 out of 3 from Cincinnati. If you can even sweep Washington, that would be even better. Both of these teams, their offenses are definitely a bit stagnant. The pitching sometimes can sort of pick them up a little bit. The main guy that I'm looking at in Cincinnati's lineup, of course, is going to be Ellie De La Cruz. The guy is absolutely dangerous on both sides of the ball. His defense is spectacular. His bat and his speed are next level, if not some of the best in the game. So you want to be able to try and contain him as much as you can, keep those pitches out of the zone so he doesn't really have a chance to be able to really touch anything too hard. With Washington, it's really just a matter of carry the momentum. Come out of this Cincinnati series on a high note, keep that offense rolling, keep the pitching going good, and just look to try and just power your way back to home at this point. Just get through these games, play as strong as you can. You're back home and in the friendly confines next week.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be the most important key here. For me, the one thing I'm going to keep a close eye on, obviously, Tito is one of the best managers in baseball, I think, right now. It's good to see him back managing again. I was a big fan of him when he was with the Red Sox and also with those the Cleveland Indians days. But it's good to know he's back and fully healthy. And like you even said, Austin, Ellie De La Cruz is just on another level. I'll be curious to know how they do tonight with Ellie De La Cruz. And also, they got a lot of good young talent on that team. Like Hunter Green's a good example of that. I think they probably, in the next couple of years or so, they might be probably in competition with maybe the Brewers or maybe the Cubs. Like it might be like a three-legged race, depending on what Pittsburgh does along the way with Skeens along the way too. But the last thing I'll say about this too is that I think the Phillies. I would like to see the Phillies take 2 out of 3 from the Reds, and also hopefully a sweep with the Nationals. Like I said, that starts from Thursday through Sunday, so it will be a good way to start off a new homestand with the big dumper coming into town as early as probably next week, and also the Nationals too to begin another homestand at CBP. All right, that's going to do it here for tonight. This is another edition of This Week in Phillies Baseball. Austin, where can people see you next on these very important programs?
It will actually be this Saturday on the Hardcore Play and Rewind podcast, the Hardcore Play podcast on the Hardcore Play and Rewind channel. Art and I are going to be, because he had a vacation that he took last weekend, so we pushed back the show that we were going to do to this Saturday. We're going to be talking about the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic games.
Nice.
Very, very fun Star Wars themed MMORPGs that had single player aspects to them that we're going to showcase those a little bit. And then aside from that, just right down here, twitch.tv/Hambo26. I've been doing a lot of Elder Scrolls Oblivion and Baldur's Gate 3 recently. I've been big into the high fantasy stuff recently, so it's been really fun. Drop a follow, drop a like wherever you can. And I believe probably in next week or the week after, again, here on This Week in Phillies Baseball.
Excellent. Good stuff. All right, Joey, I know I always ask this question about Philly Fame Legends, but what do we got coming up on Wednesday? And also the Pass and F Sports Show, since we're on the topic here.
Well, with the Philly Fame Legends, we're going to have another release coming up this week. I don't know exactly which one. Scott's going to kind of work on that, so stay tuned.
Stay close to the dial.
Hit that like and subscribe button, and hit that bell so you can get notified anytime there's a new episode of Philly Fame Legends or the Patterson Ave Sports Show. This week on the Patterson Ave Sports Show, I'm kind of still working on a guest, but one of the things that we're going to talk about is what the Eagles are going to do about the offensive line. Today, we found out about Landon Dickerson possibly going down with an MCL sprain. We are going to keep a close eye on it, but we're going to talk about potential options for Statland University and who needs to graduate and who needs to get an A+.
Sounds good. All right, that's going to do it for us here tonight for this very important program here. I want to thank Austin and Joey once again joining me once tonight like we always do. Now for everyone behind the scenes and for everyone that made it work here, for Joey, for Austin, and for myself, this has been This Week in Phillies Baseball. Stay cool, everybody. It's going to be another warm week here in Philadelphia. Until then, we'll see you guys soon and see you guys on the other side. Stay well, everybody.